I had a menopause early, so I got my menopause at 44. I didn't know that's what it was, but I got quite rubbish. I got mental health issues. I got anxiety, very bad anxiety, and OCD. And I got brain fog. And this is just the mental parts, like the brain parts. A lot of mood swings, a lot of not understandable tears, but then also very cross as well at the same time. I had an incredibly short temper, and I just didn't feel myself at all. And then the physical ones were feeling like I had the flu the whole time. Aches and pains, really stiff joints, which then transferred into frozen shoulder in my right shoulder, which then transferred into my left shoulder, and that lasted. I started that in 2018, April 2018, and it's stopped now. My eyesight got worse. I would fall asleep. So I'd get in from work, and at 6 o'clock I'd sit on the sofa, and I was due to make supper for the kids and everything, and I would just pass out, literally pass out, like as if somebody had drugged me. And it was proper, and it used to happen every day. Then I would go to bed really early at like 8, and then I'd be up at 1 and 2. And even when I went to bed later and forced myself, I was up at 4 every day. Then I also had hot flushes, and that would be, at the worst of it, it was literally every couple of hours. So a hot flush isn't, if no one's experienced it, it's not just I feel hot. It's this awful feeling that starts in the bottom of your body and comes up as if you're in a furnace and you're about to pass out. There's nothing you can do. The more you get frustrated, the hotter you get. You could step outside, take all your clothes off, stick your head in the freezer. Many of all these things I've done. I tried black cohosh. I tried primrose oil. I tried sorry, I swore. So many different, waving sage around, praying over a basket, whatever, and absolutely nothing.
Rub mustard on it. That's always the answer.
Vicks on the soles of your feet, whatever. Nothing helped.
Niki, we've got a question.
Yes.
So Ellie says, probably cover this, but did you have anxiety, etc., before then, or did it start with menopause?
I had light anxiety, not all my life, but now and again, yes, definitely. I'm probably prone to that, and that's before I delved into what menopause is about. So before I realised it was that, they got me on antidepressants and all sorts of things. But I did have anxiety, yes, but it seemed to exacerbate it. It just made it worse. Like suddenly I was, not touching the door 12 times, but touching everything 5 times. And it was all getting very difficult to get out of the house. And I also developed, weirdly, I got quite agoraphobic, which I'm not that type of person. If you know me, I couldn't get out of the house. I could not leave the house. And it was getting to a point where it was awful, and my work suffered, and my relationship suffered, and my children suffered.
So I've been doing a lot of research, and the facts are that 1 in 3 women are affected by the symptoms of menopause. 1 in 3. You imagine the size of the workforce that are being affected.
It's enormous. And we don't often think about menopause because it seems to be for old people, like over there.
It's a bit like asking someone if they'd like to speak about their death.
No, it is. Because people look at you and go, barren, and it's like, you're no good anymore. What use are you? And it's like, and it happened, when 2000, so my daughter was only 2 when I got the menopause. So, and it wasn't, I think the peri had already been happening, but I had no idea. So the peri could have been happening for I don't know how long, because nobody thinks about that. Peri can last for years. But I think, it was only when I thought I haven't had a period for 2 months, and I was like, that's weird. And then it was just it was eventually, I went to the doctor, eventually to the GP, and said, look, I don't know what this is. I think I'm menopausal. And he said, well, I don't know whether you are. No, I think it was he who suggested, do I think I'm menopausal? I said, don't be ridiculous, I'm 44. He went, well, it's just how it is. And I said, oh. And he said, well, you just have to kind of get through it. It's what women do. And I was like, wow, okay. And every time I said something about I felt clumsy or my brain fog or I was getting agoraphobic and all this and then the pain in my joints, he came up with all sorts of things, like I had fibromyalgia, can't say it, that I had. I ended up going to every osteopath, chiropractor, voodoo doctor, acupuncturist, you name it. And I was seeing so many people and absolutely nothing was working. And I just thought it was something I had to live with. And they did a blood test and said, yeah, you're menopausal. I said, well, which part of the menopause? He said, oh, I don't know.
So let's just start there. You can have a blood test to establish if you are perimenopausal.
Yeah.
Or
And
establish what stage you're at.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important because there's so many things you can do once you know where you are. People don't like talking about menopause because it is like talking about death. And that's sad because it's not, it can happen at many ages, and actually it's not something you have to suffer with, because we're told we have to suffer. We suffer with periods, we suffer with, I don't know, the mental load and all the rest of it. And we're just told that this is something that we have to go through. And there's no timings. Oh, it could be 10 years, it could be 12 years, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years. And it's like, you're giving someone a life sentence without any parole. You've no idea where you are. And that in itself is incredibly debilitating, I think.
So a thing I've noticed about working with women, because I do just work with women, is that they are very willing to accept it when they feel rubbish, when they're being rubbish, and to push through hard times without help or support. And that is absolutely unnecessary in all instances.
Yeah. I think it's one thing I would say more than anything is you don't have to suffer. We had all these amazingly awful news stories about how HRT would give you breast cancer. When I first mentioned to my mother that I was thinking of HRT a long time ago, she said, no, 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 I've had breast cancer twice, you can't do that. And I was like, well, that's not, there's so much conflicting information, especially when it comes to hormones. Hormones regulate so much of our body, we don't even know how much they regulate, from
All of
crazy
it.
gut things to to everything. Like,
All of it.
it's no joke. And so, and also, there's not much study done on hormones, especially female ones. I always say that if men got the menopause and their dicks fell off, then we'd soon know a lot more about it.
So the next thing is Tracy's just saying that she asked for a blood test the other day, and they told her, no, they don't do that. There's no need to have one.
Right, well, in that
It's
case,
not
you
right.
go back to your GP and you say, I want a blood test. Not, we don't do them. You say, yes, you do,
Give
and
me
I want
one.
one, and I am allowed to have one, and you are going
Yes.
to give me one. And if they really don't, you can go and get your own blood test done. It doesn't
Yeah,
cost the earth.
you can.
You can even do a pinprick one with Thriver, or you can do your one. You can get your own, take control of your health without it costing you a fortune, and find out where you are. And I think that's really important.
If you get a private one, you're going to get more information back
Yeah.
too, which is great. Yes, so we've talked about some of the symptoms that you've had. Some of them are quite unusual, like this frozen shoulder issue, which I see all the time in the women I work with. Lots of shoulder problems. That's not something you would relate to menopause, right?
Throughout my 2 years, nobody suggested at all that that's where that was. I
So
had,
how did you find
well, it was
out?
interesting because I had so many. I had cortisone injections. I had some. In the end, they were going to operate, and I'm really glad I didn't do that. Because what happens in the operation is it actually just, it's so painful afterwards that you hold it differently, so you go back to the beginning again. And I went to see a chiropractor who just said to me, I don't deal with frozen shoulders. And you're like, what do you mean? He said, well, it's just, because it's, again, a much more female injury. By the way, it is one of the most painful things I've ever had, ever. And it is so debilitating, you can't do things like do your bra up or wipe your bum, pull your trousers up, open a door, take something out the cooker. You
Or
can't
just
lift
concentrate?
anything.
Just
Just,
concentrating.
it's just really awful. Anyway, so
Okay.
I because I didn't know it was connected to the menopause at all, I didn't even go down that route. And it was only until I went to see our friend that I understood it was part of all of that.
So we're here today really to point you in a direction and say, I'm hosting a talk with Dr. Susie Rockwell. Dr. Susie Rockwell is a menopause specialist, British Menopause Society accredited. She is a specialist. She trains GPs in menopause whenever she can get hold of them to do it, because they're not trained in menopause. Just want to be clear on that. GPs are not trained in menopause.
They're not. And if I can give you, after Tracy's question about not having a blood test, if I can tell you about when I went to ask for testosterone before I saw Dr. Susie, I a friend of my sister's in Bristol had gone to see a specialist who was trained by Dr. Susie, actually. That's how I found out about her. And a friend of my sister was 50 and she was very active, cyclist, all over the place, and suddenly woke up one morning, couldn't cycle 2 feet and didn't know what this was. Knew she was menopausal, went to see this specialist, and they did a whole load of bloods for her. And her testosterone was nilch. Now, testosterone, as most people would think would be, is a male hormone. Why would we need that? But actually we have it too. So once she'd got her hormones sort of sorted out, she was literally back on her bike within a couple of months and feeling fantastic. So I went to my GP first and I said I would like testosterone, and he said to me, what for? And I said, because I think I'm very low in testosterone, because I keep falling asleep, because I'm terribly achy, because I feel like I'm in a fog, I have no energy, I can't lift anything. And he said, you know that testosterone is a male hormone, don't you? And I said, yes, I do, thank you. But I also know that it's in the women's body. So that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with a GP that really has other things to deal with. And it's like menopause, because everyone's attitude towards it is, it's just something that old people go through. And you're just told to put up with it. So anyway, I did get a blood test, and they rang me and said, actually, very oddly, your testosterone's very low. I said, surprisingly, yes, it is. So I then had to fight to get testosterone because they wanted to give me a pill, which I was actually allergic to HRT. So HRT itself, I had a patch originally, and I put it on my leg, and I got my mouth swelled up, my lips swelled up, I couldn't breathe, and I left it on for a good day or so and was getting iller and iller. So I rang them and they said, you've got to take it off. Then they wouldn't give me anything orally because they didn't know whether I was allergic to the hormones or to the patch or how it was administered, because all the hormones are administered differently, they're made differently, and they didn't bother going into that. They just said, well, you can't have HRT, and that was it.
I'm just going to interrupt you just for a sec. Terry's asking how she gets a blood test, so that I'll link the two websites where you can get a private blood test done at the end. Okay, I'll link them in the comments.
And if you can, by the way, if you can do the private one, if you can, it gives you so much information which you can then take with you to, you've got it then.
Yeah, and they give you an overview of their
Yeah.
findings as well, so that's really helpful.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. So eventually I saw another woman doctor who said to me, well, I've looked into it took nearly 3 months for them to agree to give me testosterone, and that was me battling, because she said, oh, I've got to check it out with so and so, and I've got to check it out with so and so. There is on the market today. There is no female testosterone medication. It's only the male testosterone. So you have to take it very differently because it's strong, too strong. You know, you don't want a beard and anything else growing. So and it doesn't exist in America, but not here. So she tried this whole pill thing, and eventually I just rang and said, look, I don't want the pill. I don't want a pill that I can't take. I just want the testosterone gel there. And as I said, it took over 3 months, and eventually I got it. I started taking it, rubbing it in on my thigh, and within, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks or so, I was not falling asleep, and I had more energy, but I thought it was the answer to everything, but it wasn't. I still felt groggy, bizarre, achy, frozen shoulders. Everything was still there, apart from the get up and go and not falling asleep.
Yeah. Okay. So the next stage, then, you're gifted an appointment to go and see Dr. Susie Rockwell, who is local to most of you watching this. It costs £330 to go and see Susie, and she doesn't take patients at the moment because she has such a long waiting list.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to be selling you tickets to a talk I am hosting by her. The tickets are only £12, and you'll get to ask her questions yourself, which she will answer. So you can bring your questions and she will answer them, which is like an unbelievable opportunity. The fact that Niki got to see her before she closed her waiting list is a miracle.
Yeah.
And there are very few doctors like Susie in the country.
There are hardly any.
Hardly any. So it's a huge opportunity.
Oh, no, it's massive, because she really is the oracle of all that is menopause, and I cannot stress enough how knowledgeable she is, and how when you ask perhaps a question that seems odd to you, she'll be like, oh, well, that's because of the thing with the blue, that's what that is, and you go, what? You know, she explained to me, for instance, why can't we fall asleep? Why do we wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Why is that? Well, because we're missing progesterone. I think it's progesterone.
It is progesterone.
She explained to me that is the falling asleep, comfy, cuddly hormone. So when you like drift off into that lovely sleep as a teenager or whatever, you know, you're like, yeah, really snooze, and nothing's going to wake you up. That's what that is. And I didn't even know that was a thing. And my appointment with her was, as I said, it was gifted, and I was incredibly lucky to get that. And I went, and it was a Zoom meeting, and I just told her everything that had happened, and she was absolutely, and she knew everything. She went, oh yeah, that's that, and that's that, and I was like, and then for me, the biggest thing was my frozen shoulders. She said, oh yeah, she said, you know, frozen shoulders, again, it's quite a female thing. That's to do with, and to put it into real layman's terms, right? So you have it's all nicely lubricated. The hormones are all right, lubricating your joints. So when they all disappear and they stop making them anymore, everything seizes up, a bit like you need WD-40, right? But it seizes up and then just stops. And so what having the hormones did for me from her was that it started to loosen up my joints, and that was very quick. I mean, I can't tell you what a joy it is to be able to turn over in bed, to be able to do that and that. I couldn't touch the back of my head. I couldn't do that.
You couldn't do it, I remember.
I couldn't even get my arm here. And so to be able to do all these things, as much as my motion is still slightly restricted, because I had it for 2 years, what the interesting thing with the hormones is that the top of my back is solid, because it held my shoulders in such like this for so long that now I'm all lubricated. My pelvis goes when I walk. So I'll be walking and then it'll just go clunk, and it's all because if I'd known about it being menopausally attached to that, and I'd met Susie earlier, I wouldn't have a problem with my thing. But I do know how that's solved, and that is by doing glute thrusts.
Okay, so that's a separate subject where I come in, because I've had many testimonials now from women saying that the nutrition and the weight training and the mindset combined has meant that they have negated the need to take HRT, right? So I know that what I do is extremely powerful as a preventative.
It is.
And to assist with allaying some of those symptoms. And when I spoke to Susie about it, she said, yes, before you do anything, before the blood test, before anything, before you book an appointment to see her or anyone like her, you do the nutrition, the weight training, the mindset.
Yeah.
It has to be those things. So she confirmed that herself.
Yeah.
She won't let me film her, so I can't prove it.
No, but
But
it is that she said to me. I told her about how I'd been going to the gym, what life changing it was. Then I couldn't go. I didn't want it hurt and all this, and she just said, look, the best thing you can do is resistance. The best thing you can do for your body as it ages, she said, is resistance
it
weight
has
training.
to
She
be
said it
weight
is the
training.
thing that not only helps you, your body then produces testosterone naturally. So
It does.
it's all, your body. We can make this better. It doesn't have to be this way.
No.
And I know that I'll have friends that will say, weight training, what are you talking about? But it genuinely
Yeah.
is it is the thing that does that. So she said to me before she gave me any hormones, she said that she said, I want you to take your diet and I want you to strip it right back and let's see, because I think there's some food stuff happening here too. I was like, okay. So I stripped it right back and did a thing called the Whole30, which was just for 30 days. And is it strict? Well, it's fairly
Sugarless.
sugarless. Now, that's another thing I learned, that
You knew that.
yeah, all right. So I did.
So I teach on boot camps that obviously GI, glycemic index, spiking your blood sugar. When you're menopausal, your insulin and cortisol levels are raised, which will affect how you hold fat on your body, which is why you see these bellies. And
I'd never had a belly in my life, ever.
the mastery of being menopausal, a lot of it is about keeping your blood sugars fairly stable throughout the day without them spiking. And that means controlling your stress levels and controlling your blood sugar levels. The two things have to go in hand in hand. And yes, this sounds like a lot of effort, but bloody hell, is it worth it?
Oh, and actually, to be honest, it's not that. It's not a huge effort in that. So I did So I did a sugar-free, grain-free, legume-free, free for 30 days. Well, it was mad. I felt amazing. The sugar-free bit was hard, but it was okay. I managed it. And also, then when you ate something that was sugary, it was like, oh, it was just crazy. But I think for me, sugar really. So I'm very inflamed. I get a lot of inflammation, and that is what Susie was talking about in saying that if we can get the inflammation down and get the hormones in, you'll be able to exercise, walk, not have your pelvis do this. And then as a preventative measure going forward, I don't want to just do it for 2 weeks. I want to be, I've got 2 young kids. I want to be able to be as healthy as I can for as long as I can. And being so sore and so much in pain up here and physically nearly broke me. This frozen shoulders nearly broke me. I was like, what is the point? It's so painful. I can't get my coat on. Anyway, so I have
Yeah,
to say that.
you were moving like a T-Rex, basically, weren't you? It
Thank you,
was,
Yolanda. Yes, I
yeah.
was.
We've got
Oh,
questions.
okay.
Okay, so Terry just says Susie Rockwell helped her because she came to the last talk.
Uh-huh.
Terry did. Helped her sort something out while on the last lecture that I didn't realise could be better. So I went to my doctor, mentioned her name, and had it sorted straight away. So Susie says, go ahead and mention her name when you're at an appointment.
Brilliant.
So it was well worth going to the lecture for me.
Oh,
And then we've
brilliant.
got another one. Thank you, Terry. Rachel's asking, did she prescribe milligrams of HRT or has the hormone prescription specifically? So what Susie does is when she gets your blood test results, then what she does is prescribes the hormones specifically to match the results of the blood test, which is what you cannot get with HRT.
No,
HRT is a bit of a stab in
blanket.
the dark.
Yeah.
Whereas that's why it's so good. And what she uses is a thing called bioidentical hormones. It's a very different type
Yeah.
of HRT, and it's all about balancing up what's missing, where all the imbalances are, balancing them back up by looking at your blood test.
and also I will say that she is very conscious of cost. So there are some, she was explaining, depending on our tolerance as a person, there are some hormones which are prescribed on the NHS. For instance, my estrogen, yes, comes in, it's a gel, and it comes in a bottle, and that's actually an NHS product. And so it's not bioidentical, but bio something. So it's not the one that's made from yams, I don't think. But it what she was saying was, if I can tolerate it, then it costs, it's just an NHS thing. But my progesterone, my night one, that's one that's made from the bioidentical, which a special chemist makes it up for you. And it's I mean, it lasts for ages, but it's actually made for you. So for instance, for me, I have testosterone, which is an NHS thing, testo gel in a sachet, which I have to use a tenth a day. Anyway, whatever, a tenth a day. Then I have progesterone in the cream, which I have at night, and then I have the estrogen, which I have in the morning, and that's it for the moment. Because personally, I also have issues with my thyroid, so that's all been added into this as well. So it's that's what I take in the moment. And when I first started, she said, I want you to take half a pump. I want to see how you fare with this. So she's very, we're just testing. And my next blood test is coming up. So we'll see what my levels are now. But, combining all of them definitely makes a difference.
Ellie's asking, is there an average age for menopause? Yes, there is. I think it's
Is it
50,
50?
right?
I think
Yeah.
it's 50.
Yeah.
So I know I was early.
So what Susie's going to do in the talk is talk about its symptoms, the pros and cons of HRT versus bioidentical. She talks about also the risks, because everyone thinks that HRT is massively risky. In actual fact, it's no more risky. I think it's even, I posted the chart the other day. I don't know if you all saw it, but it's no more risky than it's breast cancer that people are worried about. It's no more risky than somebody who smokes. I think it was slightly lower. And
also, it's different with how you take it too. I know that what I'm taking isn't risky at all.
right,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a slight risk, obviously, with everything, but it's not. And that was the HRT that they prescribed back in the day. That was, science has made, advances, and a lot of publicity was around that, but not. That's why Susie's interesting to talk to, because she knows all the statistics, if you like, and what's what.
So you get to cut through all the nonsense that you get everywhere else,
Yeah, and
straight
all
to
the
the
ignoring.
truth. You get to ask questions to a doctor who's a specialist. She's also a GP, so she can advise you on how you should be approaching your GP
Yeah.
when you do, because eventually you will, and when you should be approaching your GP. So at what stage? Because that's the other thing a lot of people go into doubt about. Should I wait longer? Is it too soon? Etc. So she allays a lot of those doubts that we all have and just says, well, you're doing it like this. Lovely and clear.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was, because when I went, obviously I mean, literally, I had got nothing of nothing. My tank was completely empty on everything. Literally, it was just like,
Hormones.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she was explaining how you can go earlier when you're in peri, and so you never have to go in brain fog, nightmare, frozen shoulder, mental, you name it. You can, it's really great if you can, do the preventative part, if that's a thing that's available, or you can do, but nobody talks about that.
We got a couple of more comments, one relating to what you just said. Tracy, I think weight training and nutrition, the thing that has seen me through this, the only symptoms of menopause I've had is dizziness and no period for 6 months. Vitamin B recommended by Susie has stopped the dizziness.
Amazing.
Is it too late if you're taking HRT already? Do you know?
No, it's not too late.
How do you mean? What's that mean?
I know what that means. In other words, can you stop? Well, I think I know what it means. Basically, I had somebody that was already on HRT, and she went to see Susie, and Susie
I
said,
see what you mean.
you absolutely can't be taking that. Actually, you've got a bad heart, and actually it's really bad for your heart. And she said, you know, that saved my life, because I was on pills I should never have been on, and I was already I could have had a stroke, and that what I was on from the GP, the general GP, was exacerbating the whole thing. So she came straight off that, and she has different creams as well, different to me actually, a whole different, you know, set. So if you're on general HRT already, it doesn't make any difference. You can still see Susie, or at least, you know, talk to her, etc. And you can,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't mean you can't change that or do it differently.
You can't see Susie, but there is
Yeah.
somebody that she refers her clients to. If you go on her website, you will see the link for the doctor she refers to. Zoe is saying, I saw the nurse at my GP for a smear test a few weeks ago and asked her about having a perimenopause blood test, and she said they don't exist. I'm now going to go back and request it again. Thank you.
Because it's just nonsense.
You can have a blood test.
Of course, it's ridiculous. Oh, it makes me me so cross. It makes me so cross.
Really annoying.
Yeah, because it's because I think we will be the generation, people, who talk about it, and I really want to talk about it, and that's why I talk about it non-stop, because it's a really big deal, and it's not just something you have to go through and suffer in silence. That is not true.
We've got another one. I remember her saying that you need to get these things sorted out before you're 60, because if you haven't by then, it's different. That's right. I do remember her saying that in the talk. That's why I'm going to go on the next one. Got 6 months left. You don't look it though, Terry. You don't look it.
Terry, she's like 35.
I know. She looks 35. Yeah. Ellie, sorry. Another question. Do you think GPs think once women have dealt with the menopause, then it can't be the menopause or lack of taking HRT that are causing other problems? Lots of what you're saying makes me think of my mum, who is in her mid-60s and has had sleep problems, etc., for years.
It's what it
Yeah.
is. It's what it is. It doesn't. If we take the word menopause out of the equation, if we take peri, post, part, whatever, when our hormones are depleted and
They're
they go,
depleted.
and means you need to fill it up because they're depleted, and it doesn't mean that you have to go through life with them depleted, because actually, you know, people saying, well, you get through it. There is no get through it, because once those
Well,
hormones have gone, they're gone.
80% of women have symptoms, severe symptoms. That's what Susie said. 80%.
Well, there you go. So it's not everyone, but
It's not everyone.
it's a lot of people.
I mean, what's happening essentially, the big changes when you have menopause are, that simplified, are progesterone and estrogen lowering at different levels, but they lower significantly. A bit like when you've got PMT, actually, because that's the same thing that happens. And your stomach gets upset and you go mental. And
all those things.
it's very similar to that.
Period diarrhea.
Period diarrhea, yeah. And that affects your gut bacteria. So, but as a result of those two hormones lowering, cortisol and insulin rise. And they are not great hormones to have in abundance in your system. So obviously cortisol is a stress hormone and insulin is a blood sugar sort of monitoring hormone that deals with sugar. So very often I've noticed that menopausal women just want to eat carbs, which is the last thing they should be doing.
We're desperate.
Can't tolerate it.
That is why my mum's 85, right? And all she wants to eat is bread, biscuits, crisps, more bread, more biscuits. That's it.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything. And this is, I'm sure, part of this whole thing.
It guarantees type 2 diabetes, basically. It's just...
I don't want that. That's why I don't want none of it. No.
The menopausal women do not tolerate carbohydrates very well at all. So they still need them, but they can't eat as much as they did without the effects of that. Oh, Maureen's got a question. Hello, Maureen.
I feel like I'm on Radio 1. This is brilliant.
Welcome to Team Yo. I'm 6 years in. Blood test when 38. didn't choose HRT, my symptoms are off the scale now. Suffering so much. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Maureen. Not sure what to try now, I think is what you're saying. Yeah, so get a blood test.
And
Start with
come
that.
to the Susie thing, because
Come to
honestly,
this.
I don't know how to explain how amazing it is that she is available to talk to, because it's a bit like the Jesus of menopause. I don't know. It's like, I don't know how to say it. Like, she has the answers. I'm not
She
particularly
has the
religious. I'm not religious at
answers.
all. But I'm not. But the thing is that you go, when you say to someone, "Oh, this is wrong," and they go, "Oh, well, that's that," and you go, "Well, what? Why doesn't anyone else know that?" And because they don't care to know that. And she, when you see superstars who look incredible and they certainly don't seem to suffer from menopause, that's because they all get to go to people like Dr. Susie all the time, and they have chefs and things like that. What I'm trying to say is Susie really knows her stuff and would be totally able to assist you. And she's impossible to see at the moment because of her waiting list, and also cost prohibitive. Let's face it, private health, at 330 quid for your first appointment is a lot of money. And if it hadn't been gifted to me, I
12
wouldn't be able to go.
quid. 12 quid.
12 quid, 12 quid. I implore everyone to listen to her, because it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I've already done one talk with her, which was a massive success, and it's so interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it, Nikki.
All right.
What?
Seeing as you've got that I'm wearing the glasses that you're wearing in the picture that you did. They look much better on me.
They do look better on you, but I look really good as Kim Kardashian.
Yes, you
So
do.
I just think it's wonderful that you're so open and honest. Sorry, that sounds a bit cheesy, doesn't it?
No, but
About
I'm
what
quite
you've
happy to.
been through.
I'm quite happy to. If anyone ever wants to ping me a question, I'm more than open to talk about it. I really want to talk about it. I'm
Yeah,
doing a thing on Instagram too about it with a friend of mine who's menopausal too. So I'm talking a
yes,
lot about menopause at the moment.
yes. We're just going to keep the dialogue going.
Yes.
There is more to come from us,
Yes. Always.
which is going to be a barrage of
Yes.
menopause. Is that what we're going to call it? A barrage of
A
menopause.
barrage. That's what it's known as, a barrage of menopause. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll put the link for the talk below, which you can buy immediately. And please share
No,
this
do please.
video.
Yeah.
It is a massive help
Yes.
to not only me, but to the people
Anyone
that's
that suffers,
suffering.
because it is a bastard. Excuse my language.
Thank you for listening. It looks like everyone really paid attention, actually, that was watching. So that's fabulous.
Great.
Nikki, you're a
Yes.
bloody marvel. You're a ginger marvel.
I'm a ginger. I'm a ginger mom. I won't be ginger for long with flipping lockdown. It's all going to go, isn't it? Anyway.
Love
Okay.
you guys. Lovely to see you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.